What's up, guys? Welcome to Movie Importance Flashback Reviews, where we take movies from our past, break them down, and tell you what we think about them. As always, if you like what you see, remember to rate, subscribe, check out the YouTube channel, Facebook, and Twitter. Email endthepulloutwoman3@gmail.com if you have any questions. So we continue our quest for Avengers Endgame. We go into the second movie of 2011, which is Captain America: The First Avenger. This is a movie that's directed by Joe Johnston, who had done stuff like Rocketeer. He had directed Jurassic Park 3, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. He is well known and well versed in the ILM sphere, where he originally helped work on the original Star Wars. And he directs Chris Evans here, who is playing Steve Rogers, or Captain America as we all know him. And Steve Rogers he's a guy that's idealistic. He's a guy that wants to be there for his country. But his problem is he's skinny. Gets sick a lot. He just has a lot of issues, and he's considered 4F, which means you can't be in the military. And his friend, who's played by Sebastian, the Winter Soldier, or Bucky Barnes in this movie, he is the guy that is going to war. And he's like, Steve, you can participate in other ways. And Steve's like, how am I supposed to be that guy when I can't even participate in the thing that's most important? And that's where the idealistic nature of who Captain America is later on, going into like Winter Soldier and Civil War and the Avengers and so on and so forth. So Steve Rogers is at the Howard Stark convention. He is approached by a character played by Stanley Tucci, who plays Dr. Abram Erskine, and he's given the ability to become the soldier that not only can be the front-facing nature of the war, but the guy who Steve Rogers wants to be. And he's offered the chance of doing this by giving him the super soldier serum, which is this thing that the Abomination is kind of given in the Incredible Hulk. And so he accepts this, and he's given the injections, and he becomes Captain America as we know him. And along the way, he meets Peggy Carter, who becomes kind of a love interest, but she's very strong-headed, strong-willed. She's very smart. She's a agent for the government they basically like SHIELD for the 40s. And she helps him to, accept the help the country. But the problem is the government doesn't want to use him for what he should be used for, which is helping save the country. They want him to use him to sell war bonds because he is attractive and he can sell to the, young population, with his enthusiasm towards America. And he does that until his friend Bucky Barnes and the Howling Commandos, who is led by Neal McDonough, are captured by the Red Skull, who is played by Hugo Weaving, who is known as Johann Schmidt in this movie before he becomes the Red Skull. And so he has to go save him, and then there's a whole battle between the Red Skull and Captain America. And it basically leads into where Captain America is going to eventually crash the plane, where he's going to get frozen for about 70 years, and he'll end up, in modern day America. And so this movie is, to me personally, is the first real start to what the Infinity War is eventually going to become. We see the Tesseract really for the first time. Yes, it's in, Odin's chamber, but it's never really explicit about what it is. But here, the Red Skull, Johann Schmidt, he goes to this temple to take the Tesseract, and so he can use it to take over the world because it can destroy people pretty easily. And so we get, just the idea of just how Hydra is going to raise and become the powerful entity that they are, and Captain America is going to take them down. That's the basic storyline. There's not really too much going on here, but there's enough that this movie is actually well directed and well acted, and just all around good fun. Tommy Lee Jones plays a gruff, grumpy sergeant of the military who helps Steve Rogers, even though he's like against helping Steve Rogers because of who he thinks he is. Stanley Tucci is pretty awesome in this movie. Peggy Carter, Hayley Atwell is the best part about this movie. She is amazing. She has a lot of depth, a lot of focus, a lot of energy to her role. And I just love her character. She had a TV show that didn't do very well, but it was a fun character when she was in that TV show as well. And she's the basis of Steve Rogers' heart and Steve Rogers' eventual arc, because when he goes into modern day, she's, passing away because she's old and she has a family and so on and so forth. But, you also can't go on without talking about, Chris Evans in this movie, Steve Rogers, who, he had done stuff like Not Another Teen Movie, Cellular, Fantastic Four, which was the one where he played Johnny Storm, which was a terrible movie. And it's just nice to see a guy who's known for his comedic nature to really embody a dramatic persona in Captain America. And the fact that he carries this on to one of my favorite of the MCU movies, Winter Soldier, with his idealistic beliefs, it's an amazing feeling movie that is hampered by the fact that the visual effects are okay. The action sequences are cool. Like the breakout of the Howling Commandos and Bucky Barnes is actually quite entertaining. The train sequence is really good. But when he's turning himself into what Captain America will be eventually become, it's montage, and it really sucks because there's a lot of good action there, but it's just like small snippets of different pieces put together. And I don't know if that was budget constraints or that was them saying you need to get this movie in like around 2 hours, but it just really feels like really campy, really weird campiness. But it doesn't take away from what director Joe Johnston is doing here, because the movie looks pretty. He worked on The Rocketeer, so his visual flair for the 40s is definitely here. And the music's really good. The cinematography is really decent in this movie, but it's a simple Phase 1 movie, and this is actually the last Phase 1 standalone movie before the Avengers comes out the year after. And I like this movie, but I think Thor, maybe Iron Man are better movies. But I think Captain Rogers, I think Chris Evans is a much better character moving forward than even Tony Stark, who becomes a little too involved with himself. But like I said, these movies are very simple. The Incredible Hulk, the two Iron Mans, Thor, they're very simplistic movies in the sense that they're very low key, they're not low budget, but they're low key in the sense of how they're played out. But like I said, with Hugo Weaving's Red Skull and Chris Evans' Captain America, you start to see how they're going to roll into the eventual Thanos Infinity War Gauntlet situation. And like I said, I haven't even said Hugo Weaving as Red Skull. He's Hugo Weaving. It sucks that he had such bad time with this movie, but he is pretty amazing as a Red Skull. And Toby Jones, who's playing Armand Zola, he's pretty good as the sidekick character. He has a lot of fun with what he's doing. But like I said, Captain America, the first Avenger, is the first step into what Captain America will eventually become. Everything kind of clicks near the end when you see Peggy realizing that Steve Rogers is not going to come back. And the movie's just good in nature, and it's good at heart, and it's just fun to watch, even though it has issues with the whole action sequences. But all the characters are having fun. It's a good looking movie. It's nicely set in the 40s. Samuel L. Jackson eventually pops up at the end of the movie. So, like I said, still a good movie, even with its flaws. So, but there you go. That's my take on Captain America: The First Avenger. Thank you so much for watching. As always, if you like what you see, remember to rate, subscribe, check out the YouTube channel, Facebook, and Twitter. Email nlapolo113@gmail.com if you have any questions. So now that we're at the end of the solo, standalone MCU movies before the Avengers, tell me what your favorite MCU movie was up to this point. Like I said, Thor, Iron Man for me, but some people think, Captain America, which is perfectly fine. So tell me below in the comments, and we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.